Welcome back into Straight from the Pitch. I'm Anna Whitty, joined as always by Scotty Schweitzer. For episode 10, we got a guest on today, Atta Football's youth program director. She spoke about what she's doing with Atta Football to grow the youth game here in America. It's a great interview, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Joined by Atta Football's youth program director, Marguerite Ferrell Nee. Before she was with Atta Football, she was a technical advisor and club development manager for U.S. Soccer. She worked with the New York Red Bulls as the senior manager of coach recruitment and education. She's a former assistant coach at Farley Dickinson University and Seton Hall University. She played 5 years at the USL and is also a former Division I athlete. So, Marguerite, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. To get things started, I'm curious, why did you leave coaching to get into the more of the behind the scenes of the development and education of youth soccer?
Oh, that's a great question. So why did I leave coaching? I threw myself into coaching at a very young age. Started coaching in high school in recreation programs. Anytime I had a volunteer opportunity, coaching middle school when I was in high school. And then fast forward to playing D1 soccer. Also coach club while I was a D1 athlete in all the local towns surrounding my school. Told my coach I wanted to coach. He told me I was crazy. Graduated Division I school and got thrown right in. I threw myself right into the coaching ranks. I got the full-time assistant job at the university I was playing at, Fairleigh Dickinson University. And I immersed myself within coaching. I was kind of nutso in planning training sessions, learning from the best, going to watch coaches coach, like crazy. Had a great mentor that said, hey, start your coach education. I mean, I started my F license in New Jersey and every year ticked off a license. So immersed myself in education. I spent 5 years in the college D1 system as an assistant, leading sessions, recruiting, doing everything it takes, in addition to coaching part-time with clubs and the New York Red Bulls. And I got a call to essentially join the New York Red Bulls in helping develop their coach and education ranks within their youth program, ages 4 to 16. Didn't even think that was a pathway I was going to jump into right away. But I interviewed, and I think as much as they interviewed me, I interviewed them. And I stepped off the field of coaching and leaving a team to coach a bunch of coaches. I would say that transition is just like leaving the playing field from player to coach, where you go through like, why did I do this? I want to still play. I miss playing. So I did go through a transition period of, wow, I miss coaching. And now I'm coaching coaches. But what my biggest growth was, we were writing curriculums. We were making sure those curriculums were age and ability level appropriate. So whether you're coaching a 6-year-old or a 16-year-old, you assess their ability. You made sure that curriculum was right for them. All that made me grow so much. It really challenged me, and I was surrounded by amazing minds that stretched me. So I think I was being stretched, which is what kept me in that role. And then I additionally remember, a good mentor of mine from there who said, hey, Marguerite, like, I know you miss coaching, but when you think about you're educating 178 coaches on a weekly basis in the tri-state area, those coaches come in every Tuesday and Thursday morning for education. We were having an impact on 40,000 players a year. So that was the difference for me of, yes, we coach coaches, but you have a greater impact than that 18-player roster.
That's fantastic. I'm a youth coach myself. I run a technical academy, so I'm not a club, but we run a technical academy for the local clubs around here. For me, how is Atta Football going to enhance and develop the youth game, the youth side of the women's game?
So Atta Football, if you're not familiar with Atta Football, we are an app, attafootball.com, a website. We have a massive social following on Instagram, And essentially, we're trying to inspire the youth market around the women's game. So just like you have accessibility to the men's game, I could sit here on Saturday morning and I could watch men's soccer from 9 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. The women's game still doesn't have that accessibility. So we're trying to bring that access to the youth market, the youth coaches, the fans of the game. So they're watching the game, which they can learn from, and then be inspired around our tactical library, so they could just see snippets of the best women in the world in tactical actions, defending and attacking. Then also, if they're following us on social or they're seeing us in the youth market at youth tournaments, coming to their club environments, they're getting inspired about who these women are, where they're playing. Do they know Lindsay Horan is playing in the French league and that she's a rock star with Lyon? Just like connections like that make sure, the next generation of these players know the best female athletes in the world.
Really cool what you're doing with Ata football. And I also think probably your background has helped you get to and make connections and network with people to network those things together. And one of those in your background is US soccer, which you have mentioned before that you were with a specific region and you would evaluate talent in that region. How did you evaluate all of the talent? How many people did you work with? And what was that role like to make sure you were spotlighting the right talent to fit into the federation correctly?
Yeah, great question. So talent is an interesting word for me. Talent has to be assessed over time. What we were doing at US Soccer is I managed a 13-state region within the Northeast, and then there were multiple of us across the US that managed specific regions. We had a scouting network that we built in-house. So I had 14 part-time scouts within the markets and within those states that helped me assess players. How did we do that? We watched games on the weekend, so we made sure that we saw them in their game environment. I would do club visits so I could see them in their training environment. And mostly we would always talk to the coaches. That was really important because they're seeing them on a daily basis. So they not only know their characteristics on the field, they knew their characteristics off the field, which are also important in talent development. So through that, I would gain lists. I would narrow searches down. I would run training centers within that 13 state environment. So a lot in Massachusetts, a lot in New York, a lot in trying to split the states up, so we're bringing those pools in. Our scouts would come in. We would assess, the talent within that talented group, and then we would talk to our youth national team coaches to see what was needed, what they wanted, what were they looking for, what was the philosophy, and trying to fill the gaps there. So it was, just a lot of communication with the clubs, communication with the scouts, a lot of watching games ongoing on weekends and tournaments, trying to see the best matchups. So it was a really competitive game and a competitive environment. And then continuously, like I started, talent's an interesting word. It has to be, you have to watch someone over time and a lot of time. So we had a database that we were writing scouting reports in, so we could watch those players over time. So not only if I was writing a report, a scout was writing a report, a youth national team coach was writing a report, we could see if there were trends over time of potential talent and if that talent was being developed.
Yeah, and I'm curious in that sense because everyone develops at different times and different rates in their life. How did you know when to walk away from a player, or how did you know to kind of wait around, watch their development, and see if they eventually do get to where you want them to be to bring them into the federation?
I think that's one of the good things about now these software programs that are being established for scouting. And the amount of reports being written, the various eyes. So we're over time assessing these players. And if you continuously see a dip in what we call talent, depending on, there's context, right? There's context to what position they play, comparisons to who is the top performer in the country, and then what they're bringing to that position, and or what maybe multiple positions they could play, and what we already have. There's so many variables that, and communication with the youth national teams, that whether it was the right fit right now, it's not the right fit right now, we're going to try someone later. There's a lot of decisions that go into that process. We're a huge country, and I've seen stars at and I don't want to even say stars, players that have come in at 14 and they haven't made it pro, and then I've seen that late developer, and they're 20 something, and now they're making our national teams. So it's just, you can't totally assess youth right now. You have to just monetize that over time. And I like, that's what I always said to players: you're sometimes going to be in the pool, you're sometimes going to be out of the pool, but it's really important that you're playing in a great environment that's challenging you. You have a lot of support. You're constantly seeing competitive games on the weekends. And that environment is more important for a youth player than anything. If they want to be a pro, if they want to try to get to the youth national teams and national teams, if they want to play Division One, more of their environment is what's going to get them to where they want to be.
You said earlier that there will be a tactical library. Who will be, I guess, writing or coaching that part of the film that I'll be watching on your platform?
So we currently have 20 videos in our tactical library. That's been completed by top college coaches in the United States that have given us actions of what they've wanted and what they wanted to see. Additionally, just through my experience with U.S. soccer and helping and assisting writing the instructor's license and some of the licensing, going through all the licensing myself, learning from other federations in Dutch and French, I've created an actions list that are high level and attacking actions, defending actions between the thirds of the fields. And right now our video crew are working and editing clips to those actions of, playing behind the defensive line into the final third for a goal scoring opportunity. So, now that breaks down even further. It could be a chip pass, it could be a through ball, it could be a combination play. So we're just doing clips at kind of the highest level that in their simplest form. So learning is really easy. Where do I want to be? I want to bring a project manager on to manage this library, to really build it out in these tactical actions, and then build an entire technical library. So we're seeing the game in the simplest form is a low driven ball, right? A chip pass, and how that breaks down. So there could be more learning involved for young players.
You mentioned that the coaches are communicating with you at Otta Football what they want to see. What have you heard has been one thing that they feel like their players can improve in the most and that they would like to see from the tactical library?
Yeah, so a lot of the college coaches are still, not getting the most technically refined player within the college game. So the importance of, again, these players continuously watching the game and seeing these players of how, what it looks like at the highest level. And then you go out and you try it and you learn, you do it. And I think it's just why I took this job. It's like the one component that's been missing in girls and women's soccer is we haven't watched the game enough. We haven't had the access to the tactical libraries. I did my, all the way up to my A license, and we broke down an academy director's license and my DOC license, and we broke down games continuously. I never broke down a women's game. I've only coached women. you know, it's like, not only do we not have access just as fans and as growing up in the women's game, even you go to your licensing and you don't have access to tactically break down the game. So yeah, at Otto, we just hope that everyone starts utilizing our library, starts watching the games, and being that it's free, it's in the palm of everyone's hands. And we really truly hope coaches start to push this so we could just shift that learning a little bit more.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to push it because we've said it on this show. The women's game, and I'm a ex-pro, and when I was playing, I would have never thought I would have liked coaching girls. I like it so much more. That they want to learn. They're sponges. They want to love the game. They play a way more team-oriented game, and you can I'm in North Carolina, so I'll go to the Courage games, me and my daughter, and it's so easy to watch the play and what the systems are and what coaches are looking for. Where sometimes you watch a men's game and you just know, man, they're just so talented and so athletic. It's just, whose game is it today? Sure, Man City might be able with Pep to do some tactical genius things, but for a lot of the times it's just seeing better athletes. Whereas watch the girls' game, and you can really break it down tactically and really understand the game. And for me, coaching right now, when I watch players, we have very technical players where I coach, but their understanding of the game is so far behind that they're not able to use their skills that they have because they're basically chasing the game all the time. So to have a platform where I can watch games and someone's helping me understand what I'm trying to do and how I manipulate another team, I think it's just a phenomenal, phenomenal thing that if you didn't get on board, I don't know what the reason would be.
Especially for free. I mean, Otta Football is giving you access to all of these leagues, all these games, and obviously just so much that you can consume on Instagram, on TikTok, on their website. So definitely encourage you to check it out. My last question for you, Marguerite, is Scotty and I have talked a little bit about the youth game and NWSL, MLS, and how it's grown in the States and maybe where there needs to be some improvement. So from your time just working in the youth game, being a coach, where have you seen youth soccer in America grow, and where do you see it needing a lot of help compared to other federations?
Okay, loaded question.
I know.
So where has it grown? It's grown in, let me start flashback to, I grew up not having a competitive environment. I grew up, thank goodness, with two older brothers. And when my local girls club team wasn't competitive enough, I could jump in boys' games, indoor tournaments, and be pushed and challenged. Fast forward, what's really improved are there's established leagues now that can push a competitive environment for better or worse. But these leagues right now, we all have to be grounded and be reminded of why the league started, and that there was not a source not long ago for girls to play in a really competitive way. So I think where the game has come is that there are structures here. I mean, the boys side has it because all the MLS clubs have these youth pathways and pro pathways, and they can see the top because they're in the environment every single day. The girls have established competitive leagues. If you want to play at the highest level, that you can find those leagues right now. So I think what's coming along, I wish what was out there existed when I was younger. So I think that's come a really a long way. In education, what's come a long way is I think the federation with the grassroots pathway has done a good job of making things a little bit more accessible. So they have online courses, they have in-person courses. So that does allow the parent coach to jump online and get a 4v4 license, right? That's really important. It's easy. They can do it. They take some things to take away. They know they're not going to stretch of coaching anything else besides their kid on the weekend in 4v4 or 7v7. I think that's really important. And So the accessibility does. Additionally, in coach education, what's been an improvement is the coach licensing has, yes, stretched out. The courses are longer. It's not the greatest for everyone. But why did they do that? They did that so you can immediately apply the learning to your environment. That's how we all learn. So you have a module, you take it away, you bring it back to your team and club, and you're supposed to implement it, to trial, error, evolve it. And that's how learning takes place. So I like that structure where we're seeing application right back into the team and club environments. That's being pushed by U.S. Soccer. Things that need to be improved. How long do you have?
That's why I said this is my last question.
Okay. Things that need to be improved. I think let's start to talk about players. As the travel, the amount of playing, that needs to be improved. So that has to do with periodization, and we shouldn't be playing 4 games a week and on the weekends and every single night training, mindful that these players are in school, potentially play other sports. And I think we are now seeing it with injuries, not to mention the travel of week in, week out. We have very young players traveling across the country to which they could play competitive games within their market. So all of that is, I think, where we're trending in a really challenging direction. And that needs to be reassessed, just so we could bring things closer to home for these young players. In coach education, what needs improvement? I think we have to continuously evolve what we are teaching. I think we went a little bit too far the other way of these courses are really long. They're sometimes at really bad points in the calendar. There's probably no good point in the calendar, but we need, the more courses we have, the more education that's out there. And there's a really small window of coaching licensing courses on the list that needs to grow in order to educate more people, in order to get more educated people into these coaching and club environments. That needs to change, but that needs to come with more licensed instructors, making sure that they're good and they're available. So there's more education occurring. We also need to learn from the investment that's going into the international game. All of federations are always putting investment into their education in the coaching sphere. And now they're investing in not only the men's teams, but they're seeing the investment in the women's side of the game. That's, apparent by the numbers. England are getting in stadiums for the women's teams. Look at Barcelona, the investment in the French league. So we need to catch up because that investment is not happening at a fast pace, enough of a fast pace in America, whether it's in our federation or in our NWSL. We need more. And that investment just goes right back to the players, right back into the leagues. And it's just going to propel the players and the league so we can catch up to the rest of these countries that are putting money in, and they're seeing what's coming out of that. I mean, if you watch the Barcelona women, it's so exciting. You watch Wolfsburg, you watch Lyon. I mean, we should be a little concerned for this upcoming World Cup because the rest of the world is catching up to us. And that's, again, all because of what their federations are doing and what these clubs are doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more at all on all aspects. I mean, and I'm super excited after listening to you talk. Like we've said on the show, there's a lot of people that are in the game for what the game can do for them. And there needs to be more people that are in the game for what we need to give back to the game and to develop it and help these younger players be better than what we had, be better players than what we had. And it's good to hear someone that is in the game for the right reasons, because there's a lot of people that that aren't in it for the right reason. So I'm super excited about Out of Football. I'm excited that you're a part of it and what you've said to us and shared with our viewers today. I mean, I couldn't be more excited about the game. And for me, as a dad of a 14-year-old daughter that plays the game, I'm super excited for her.
That's amazing. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate it. Anna, Scott, everything you're doing, same thing right back at you. You're inspiring me. You're pushing the game and all these podcasts, and getting news and information out. That's what we need. That's exactly why we're all in this.
Yep, I agree. It's an amazing league. It's an amazing league that we need to promote way more because there's so many phenomenal players, and we say it week in and week out. It's a shame that we don't know more about these players.
Yeah. And Scott and I primarily talk about NWSL and MLS, and we talk about the federations, and we've talked about the U.S. women's national team with the upcoming World Cup. So you kind of prompted me, like, you should come in. We should talk about what the U.S. should be scared of, because you guys are at Ata Football covering these leagues in France and in Spain. So we should have a conversation certainly about that before the World Cup. But thank you again for coming on, sharing what you're doing at Ata Football, what you've done in the past. You can follow them at atafootball.com. Marguerite, where else can they follow you, and where can they follow Ata Football?
Yeah, check out atafootball.com. Download the app today. Again, it's free. Follow us on Instagram. And through all of that, you could see, you can track me down.
Perfect. We'll link everything below in the show notes underneath on YouTube. So Marguerite, thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate your time.
What a fantastic interview. For our first interview, we couldn't ask for a better guest. And she really got me excited. And I'm sure a lot of other players and coaches excited for where the women's youth game is going and how Ata Football is going to help us get there. So what a great interview. I mean, I'm so excited about today's show.
Yeah, no, it was really cool to talk and hear from Marguerite about how they've seen something missing in the women's game and how they can bring in help to help coach these coaches, these players, get them more invested from a baseline, and they can learn from people, and it's all free. That's the coolest part about Ata Football is right now all their content online is free. And speaking of the youth game, it was announced Tuesday that U.S. Soccer has hired Matt Crocker, Southampton Director of Soccer Operations, to be the sporting director on the men's side of the game. Before Crocker was at Southampton, he was English FA's head of development team, coaching and overseeing England's national youth programs on both the women's and the men's side. And ESPN kind of talked about it in an article I read. They said he ticks a lot of boxes in terms of what the USSF wants from a candidate, having worked in the youth development at Southampton and helping build the women's team at Southampton as well. Last month, it was said the individual will remain in charge of the Federation's 27 national teams, including the youth sides, and that Crocker will set out the technical vision and will oversee talent identification. So Crocker will be doing all this stuff for U.S. Soccer. Scotty, as the sporting director, what do you think this will entail for Crocker, and how do you see U.S. Soccer benefiting or maybe not benefiting in your eyes from what Crocker will bring?
No, I if you watch the show, I'm normally not super excited about the directions and the steps that the U.S. takes going about their business of making us a better country and better in soccer. I am ecstatic about this hiring. Yeah, you list all of his accomplishments and where he's been and what he's done. I like it, one, that he's from outside. He's not part of. He's not an Ernie Stewart. If you looked at all the names that they were interviewing, the Pete Vermeeses, the Boca Negras, they were interviewing people that were going to take care of and maybe hide or disregard some of the mistakes that had been made in the past. I don't think Crocker's going to do that. I think he's going to come in. I like that he's a part of every age group, every national team. I like it that before he became his role at Southampton, he was a youth coach, and he had the likes of Gareth Bale, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Luke Shaw, James Ward-Prowse. I mean, he's been a part of developing players. So now he'll have to come in and implement that development style and understanding to our youth teams in order to create better national teams. And I like that he ticks my boxes too. He's going to be working with the women. He understands that people are putting in money in other countries and facilitating better teams, and we need to do the same. They are catching us, and I think this is a phenomenal hiring. This is a great hiring for the U.S., and now we can get a coach. And if you ask me, He was one of the coaches that was looking at him when he was at Southampton. He was looking to bring Jesse Marsh in, and I've said it before. I think Jesse Marsh is going to be. It would be one of the coaches I would strongly look at because I think he has a passion and a fire for the game and for the country that he would be a great national team coach, and I think they would work well together in creating something better than what we have right now. So I am excited about this hiring.
U.S. Soccer said it. They weren't going to hire a coach before they brought in a sporting director, which is a good call. We talked about it in an earlier episode. Scotty, you mentioned that the sporting director, the coach, the GM all have to be on the same page, and that's a great way to start. Is the sporting director is in charge of everything. They're overseeing all of athletics. We mentioned 27 national teams, which includes all of the youth sides. He oversees the technical, the tactical side. So this is a huge job for Crocker. He has a great resume. He's going to come in and implement what he's done in England, which he has seen be successful over there, bring it here to the States. So it's only going to grow. The second thing that I saw that ESPN mentioned in their article was the process in hiring Crocker included LAFC's co-president and John Thornton and Washington Spirit's GM Mark Krikorian. Gosh, Mark Krikorian, that is such a hard name to get correct. I think it's cool that they're bringing in people in the leagues here in the States just to have us, say and who U.S. Soccer is bringing in to be the sporting director.
I totally agree. I think the leagues play a huge part in the
Right.
development and understanding of how we want to play as a country. You look at England a few years ago, more than a few years ago, the EPL wasn't a great league, and England wasn't a great team on the national aspect of it. But the league's gotten better. It's helped their players. It's helped their academies. So I think it's only the right thing to do to have league people invested in who's coming in order to make their leagues better, which the better the league, the better the country, the national teams will be. So I think it's a hand in hand, and I'm glad that they went outside of their own people and were able to kind of shut down their egos in a sense and have people help them to come to the right conclusion.
And Krikorian comes from Florida State, where he coached the women's side. Most of his career was in the college aspect. So not only are they technically talking to people who are involved in NWSL and MLS and making decisions there, but Krikorian has relationships at the college level where he can help Crocker ID players that they want to bring into the federation, how they want the federation, the style of soccer that they want to play there. And it's allowing for a conversation for everyone to be involved in the conversation. Obviously, we don't know at what level people get a say in and what, but it's a good start that NWSL and MLS is bringing in, or rather US Soccer is bringing in MLS and NWSL people to have a say in this sporting director hire. And you can see also, obviously in England and overseas, they do start at such a lower level, bringing in young players to play at the highest level. The NWSL is investing it as well. I mean, they brought in 3 15-year-olds recently, two of them in Chloe Ricketts. They have a player at San Diego. So it's showing as well that NWSL wants to start investing in the youth, get them in their system so they can grow and get involved in the team and just grow in that league and hopefully potentially play on their national teams.
Yeah, I agree. We need to start. Everything starts at the youth. In any
Right.
country that's any good at soccer, it all goes back to the youth. 2014, Germany their federation went back to all their youth organizations and asked them to train a certain way and do a certain thing. And they had 10 years to please implement this. And in 10 years, 2014, Germany wins the World Cup on the men's side. So the youth development is a huge aspect of what we have accessible at the national team level. The more players we can create and help and develop, the better we have, the more competition we have with our national teams. The national team played a couple weeks ago. They played last week. They played Mexico, and you're really only looking at maybe 3 or 4 of those young players that you really think have any chance being on that national team. Whereas you bring in a young English team that's probably they're young players, and you're thinking, wow, we're pretty good in the next 2 years when some of these guys age out, we'll be fine because we have these young players coming in. I think we need to do a better job of, as the groups age out, we're replacing them with better players, more experience coming into their first couple trainings and first couple games with the national team. And I think Crocker and what he's done in the past is the direction that the U.S. is now headed. And like I said, I can't be more excited. And I'm usually not excited about the way U.S. Soccer handles their business, but I think this one was a fantastic hiring.
Matt Crocker is the new sporting director for U.S. Soccer. We'll certainly stay on top of this story, see how everything evolves. Obviously, the men's side needs a new head coach, and Matt Crocker is going to have a huge say in that hire.
I'm
NWSL,
available. I'm available.
you're put your name in the hat. Yeah, why not? What's your pitch?
Why
What's your
not?
elevator pitch, Scotty? Let's hear it. Putting you on the spot.
You need me just as much as I need you.
Short and sweet.
Yep.
NWSL fires their first coach of the season. KC Current fires head coach Matt Potter. The team cited issues around employment and leadership responsibilities. And the Current started their season with 3 straight losses, one of them being to a Mallory Swanson-less Chicago Red Stars 4-2, which is a statement win for the Red Stars. The team has certainly struggled with injuries this season. Potter, though, he took them to the finals last year, but last year they went without a win for their first 5 matches. So to me, this reads it can't be because of a slow start. However, Scotty, we're not here to speculate. We have no idea what happens behind closed doors. We don't know exactly why Potter got fired. We just know what we've read online and what we've heard from these teams. However, for the story and for this conversation, let's say that Potter and the GM for the current Cam 11 have a great relationship. Everything's fine and dandy. Is there ever too soon to let go of a coach because the team isn't getting results off the top of the season?
I think every situation has its own pieces to it. So when we look at this one, and again, you're right, we would only be speculating because even the interviews and the stuff we read doesn't really say too much to us anyway.
Yeah.
And the players said they were shocked, so they don't know. So until somebody speaks or until we have more of the truth, it's not our jobs to speculate. I agree. But sometimes in a season, the locker room gets lost. And if there is a connection with a GM or someone else that's around the locker room, because the coach is always going to try to win back the locker room. It's their job. It's the way we coach. The ownership then has to make a decision. Do we get rid of a player to make a statement? Do we get rid of a coach to make a statement? I think last year, looking at the 0-5, Lynn Williams gets injured early. Sam Mewis, who they brought in, wasn't even going to play. They kind of knew that. And then it ended up being longer than they thought. They had made some changes. This year, the changes they had made, even though they do have some injuries, they made changes to be good now, not to be good and build to. They made changes to be good right now. And so maybe the ownership coming in and getting rid of Potter was to say, look, we believe in you guys and we don't want to sit around and wait. And they were kind of showing them that we care about winning. And sometimes that's really good for the players to know how fully invested the ownership group is into their well-being too as players. And maybe that's something that happened. 3 games, though, we talked about it last week. I said I would be worried, but I wouldn't panic. Firing a coach is a panic move in a sense to me, whereas this is not the person you think you can win with no matter what happens. Every team goes through little lulls and little runs during the season. And to me, Kansas City has started with a lull. They just started with a lull, and they have veteran players. They have leaders. So I thought they were just going to kind of ease their way out of it. Players were coming back from injuries. So to see where this team goes now, they've won 2 games since the firing.
Right.
So it looks good right now on ownership's side. But you're right. To me, it caught me off guard. I was completely shocked by it. But what we're learning this year is do not be shocked by anything in the NWSL because it comes at you fast. Man, it comes hot and heavy every week. Some news happening. So, I thought it was a little early, a little premature. But like we always say, we're not in the locker room. We're not there. But from what the results have been since, it looks like it was the right move. Now is the intern coach going to be your head coach? Is she going to stay on? Did you have somebody in mind already? These are all things that an organization goes through when you have a situation like this.
And based off of what players said after the game against Houston, because Matt Potter got fired Wednesday morning, the announcement was made, and the players had to play in their first Challenge Cup Wednesday evening. So it was a quick turnaround, and not that they didn't know their new interim head coach, but the players they had no idea. They did not see this coming. There was nothing said from the players from a standpoint, which last year with Potter bringing them to a championship final proves that he can win a locker room. He has the respect of his players. He has a good system. He had good players in good places. And this year it could only get better as Gautreau returns. They have Debinha, DiBernardo in the midfield. A lot of good assets. However, we see how this Kansas City team is moving. I mean, they're building a women's professional stadium, the first one. They have the first general manager in the league. They have great ownership and Patrick Mahomes, his wife, the Long family, people who are invested and have things to say about how this team is being run. Now, Kansas City is up against the Bay Area. They're up against Utah. Well, I guess not Utah anymore because they have Amy Rodriguez, but up against the Bay Area when it comes to hiring a new head coach. Who would you want to see in this Kansas City role? I will just go quickly first because I know I'm putting you on the spot with that question. I would love to see Rianne Wilkinson come back into the league. Wilkinson won the championship last year with Portland. She can win a locker room within one season. She has her principles and she knows how to get her players to buy into it. Kansas City wants to win and they want to always be winners. They're looking to build, but they want to win right now. Like you said, Scotty, based off the players that they brought in. And Wilkinson wants to see this league grow. She's been vocal about that. I think Wilkinson would be a great fit for this Kansas City team.
Yeah, to be honest, I couldn't name a coach right off the bat here.
Yeah.
I would say this, the coach I bring in, though, you're going to have to make sure that coach is the right coach for the pieces you have. And you have some players that are looking to attack. You're going to have to, like, as good as Debinha is offensively, she is a liability defensively.
Sure.
So you're going to have to be able to put this puzzle together, and it's going to be a coach who knows how to play offensive football, offensive soccer, offensive attacking mode soccer with cover behind for players that aren't known to be good defensively. So the coach you bring in, it doesn't just matter if they're a winning coach. Can they win with these type of players? And maybe last year Potter had the right type for his system. Maybe this year the new players that have been brought in and are going to become more dynamic on the field and dynamic in the locker room, it just wasn't the right fit. So I don't really necessarily have a name of a coach, but it's got to be a coach that has the ability to teach a defensive system in an offensive system that they're playing.
Kansas City is heading into match day 5 this weekend. So they have a ton of matches to look forward to. They're looking probably for a new coach. It probably won't happen right away, but it's not something that they can wait until next season. They certainly probably want to get someone in sooner rather than later. So we'll definitely be following to see who Kansas City brings in. It will definitely be interesting and could be a name that we haven't heard of before. Heading into match day 5, Angel City will be playing Portland Saturday night at 10:30 Eastern. Late game for you, Scotty. Sorry about that. Which means we will see Julie Ertz against Sam Coffey because Ertz plays in the 6. However, she is a more attacking minded. She will get forward. We'll probably see her be on the front foot more against Coffey. Who do you expect to win the battle?
Man, this is great.
It's like picking your favorite kid.
It could be a midnight game, and I'll be up for this game. This game is awesome. Everyone knows we love Ertz and we love Coffey. So I mean, this is fantastic. And you always get these matchups and you say it's not about Ertz versus Coffey, and it really isn't. These are two awesome teams, And in the last LA game, we see Ertz is a 6. But good God, she holds her line is where the 10 is. Like she pushes her line so high. So for me, it's awesome because Ertz is going to push her line super high, which means she's going to be matched up with Coffey, where you're going to get your 2 6s pretty much matched up. And I mean, it's going to be fantastic. I know when I was growing up, every one of my youth coaches would always say, whoever wins the midfield is going to win the game. Man, this is set up for, and I think, to be honest, I personally think Portland is going to win the game. And I think Coffey on her game, because I think she had a pretty lackluster for her effort last game, even though they won 2-0 against Louisville. It wasn't one of her better games, I didn't think. And that's because of the quality she is. So we hold her to such a high standard. But I think because of Sinclair, because of the players that Portland has around, is going to allow Coffey to stay more into her own role. Whereas Ertz, second game, she'll get a full week of trainings under her. She's still learning the system. She's still learning how her teammates play. And I think that's going to play into Coffey getting the better of this game and Portland coming out on top. That's just the way I see it. But this is a matchup. Man, you couldn't ask for anything better with these two playing against each other. Two just warriors in the midfield who it's just going to be fun to watch them.
I agree. I think Coffey will certainly win this battle. And I think not only has Coffey had more experience in the NWSL as of late and has played more competitive games than Julie Ertz has, Coffey has a better supporting cast. I mean, Ertz is playing around Danny Weatherholt, Savannah McCaskill, who she played with at Chicago. That's no knock to those players, but Coffey has Sagita and Christine Sinclair in the midfield with her. So she will be able to sit back and truly play out in that sixth role that we've seen her do so well at Portland. And for Ertz, Danny Weatherholt isn't Christine Sinclair, isn't Sagita, isn't going to get forward the way Sagita does. So Ertz will have to be that defensive six for her team. But after that game, I was up in Los Angeles for the Waves Angel City game Sunday night. And Ertz in the post-game press conference, you could just see how pumped she was to be there, how she wants to get better, how she felt more comfortable as the match went on around the players she was with. And she had only played 1.5 training sessions with Angel City before she played the Waves Sunday night. So it goes to show that she's going to see these games as growing opportunities, not only for the league, but for the World Cup. And don't kid yourself, Vlatko Andonovski will be at this match. He wants to see this matchup most definitely, just as much as we do, but not as much.
I agree. And I think Coffey has to almost take that on head on. She has to know it. She has to know. I think the way things are going with Ertz, she comes into that camp, and then a couple days later, she signs with LA. Things are going in the form that makes you think, hey, this is a good push by the league, by the federation to get Ertz onto this World Cup squad. They're doing everything they can to get her leadership on this World Cup squad. So if I'm Coffey, I'm saying if I can dominate Ertz, if I can show that I am better than Ertz in this game, then I'm coming too. I think she has to look at it like this is your camp, this is your tryout, this is your chance. Vlatko was at the Louisville game with Portland, and like I said, I didn't think it was one of her better games. She wasn't terrible. She just wasn't her normal Coffey the way she normally is. I think going into this game, she has to, and I was the player that did that. I put extra pressure on myself. I was one of the first players to wear white shoes and not wear the normal black. I liked the pressure. I think Coffey needs to make it known to herself that I'm going into this game to win this game for my team. I'm not going to hurt my team, but I'm also going to win my spot on this World Cup team. Because if you need to find out if Coffey can play in the World Cup, what better matchup than against Ertz? No matter if it was her first day back, this is what I want to see. If you can beat Ertz, if you can win this battle, then you can win battles against any player in the world. And Ertz has shown, even though it's been so long, she was our best midfielder, I thought, against Ireland. She was the most effective midfielder in the games. So I think this is a great opportunity for Coffey to solidify her spot with Vlatko, because he's already solidified it with us.
Yeah, most importantly, right? Because what we say about Coffey is gold. No, I agree. I do not think that the head coach for the U.S. Women's National Team, Vlatko Andonovski, will bring Coffey either way. Just because he didn't bring her to the Ireland games and didn't bring her to Australia, what's he going to do? Just flip his mind based off of 10 NWSL games that he knew that she can play well in? I don't see him changing his mind before the beginning of July rolls around and he has to make a decision based on a handful of NWSL games. I'm not saying I agree with that. I just don't see, based off of his resume and things he's done before. But I also want to say too, because you mentioned this is where Coffey should come in with a chip on her shoulder, kind of act like she owns the place. We've never seen Coffey really own the place in a swagger, cool way. She's correct in what she says. She's very nice, but I would like to see her be kind of mean. Like, she seems like a really nice, helpful, encouraging teammate, which is important. But I'd like to see her be a little mean and be a little tough and body people a little bit more and just show that this is her field, this is her turf. And that's what I would like to see from Coffey against Julie Ertz this weekend.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I think she has to.
Yeah.
That's how she's going to make the team. It cannot always be just business-like. Right. Sometimes it's got to be, you got to go in to win a game to win future games. You got to go in there and say, look, you see me on the field, you know we're winning. I mean, I think Mia Hamm said it. I don't play the game to win today. I play to win every day. So like you're putting that persona out about yourself, and I think part of it is even, and I agree with you. I don't think Flacco's going to bring her. I don't think she's on his radar. What she needs to do is to kill it this week, destroy Ertz. So then all the people that do know the game are going to say, why is she not on the radar? Like sometimes when I played and the coach didn't like the way I play and didn't like my style, and that's totally fine. Every coach has that right to. But when I played against that coach, I played to make sure they knew they made a mistake. And I think Coffey can do that this week and say, look, you're not looking at me. You are looking at me. But let me just show you what you're not going to bring. If you don't bring me, this is what you're missing. And I think that she has the ability to do that. And this would be a great game for her to showcase that, to showcase all those talents, everything that she has in the bag.
I'd like to see Coffey after this game or even before this game acknowledge the World Cup in a fun but smart way and be, like, hey, this is Julie Ertz. This is everyone saying she's going to the World Cup. It's not set in stone, but the way people write about her and the way that people have talked about her in the media, she is the 6th, and this is why they're wrong. This is why it should be me. There's a way to say it, and I would just I think that would be great PR for Sam Coffey. It'd be great PR for the league. And if I were the coach of the U.S. women's national team, I would respect the hell out of Coffey just saying, I belong in this spot, and this is why. And that's no disregard to Andy Sullivan and Julie Ertz. But Coffey is a superstar in this league, and whoever doesn't see that, I mean, I don't even think you have to be a soccer fan to see Coffey as a superstar in this league, to be honest. She just dominates centrally and understands her role. I mean, she acts like a true quarterback on this Thorns team.
Yeah. She's either a quarterback or like a middle linebacker in a sense that sits back there and calls the plays and does all the dirty work to make all the skilled players have the ability to show the skills that they have. But like what you're saying that Coffey needs to do, I'll tell you who would do it if she was in the same predicament is Ertz. Like take a little note from her book. She would say, the 6 is mine. The 6 role is my role. This is mine. I'm going to own it. She's basically saying that, jumping over, I think you said Huerta for the throw in. Like when she came into those national team games, she wasn't there just to win the game. She was there to show everybody, hey, everybody, I'm back. The 6 is mine. The team is mine. I'll wear the captain's band soon, kind of a thing. Even though she kind of made faces when she got the captain's band and made it like, I don't deserve it. I've been gone for so long. Just her actions determined that she got that band. They wanted to give it to her just because of the way she went about her business in those games. And she went about her business the other day for LA. So I think Coffey can take a page out of Ertz's book and be like, hey, no. Someone's going to challenge you for this spot because, your time's coming to an end and I'd love to learn from you. But right now, I have to beat you. So I think that's a great way to look at it, is a little bit of Ertz into Coffey, and we got the perfect player to win a World Cup for us.
Who's the guy that the Jets drafted, the quarterback out of BYU? What's his name? Zach
Wilson.
What's his last name?
Wilson.
Zach Wilson. Did you see I don't know when he said this. Obviously, breaking news if you haven't heard it, Aaron Rodgers is headed to the New York Jets. He made a comment about, some reporter asked him what he thinks about the new quarterback coming in. He's like, I'm going to make his life hell. I would love to see Sam Coffey do something similar to Julie Ertz, and that Sam Coffey has secured the U.S. women's national team spot. The confidence that Zach Wilson kind of exuded. He's a young kid. Aaron Rodgers has this experience and everyone respects him in the league. But this is Wilson's spot. He is the Jets quarterback, and he's not going to give it up without a fighting mentality. I loved that comment.
Yeah, I agree with you. He said he's going to make it hard. He's going to fight to lose his spot. Basically, he's going to have to win it from me, and I think that's the right mentality. And I don't need a coach to tell me I'm on the national team. Or when I was in college, the coach at NC State said, I'm never going to make you the captain because my grades weren't good enough. And I said to him, I don't need a silly little armband to be a leader. I don't need your armband. I don't want your armband. I never thought of myself as a captain. A leader, yes. And I think that's Coffey saying that will prove that, she is a leader. She's a quiet leader at Portland. She doesn't need to be the voice. She has other voices there. But every once in a while, you need to self-promote yourself, and you need to show people, listen, I might be quiet, but I'm determined. And I think sometimes that might come across wrong, how businesslike and politically correct she is in some of her. Sometimes she needs to come out and say, that's not good enough, and I'm going to take care of it. Or this is my spot, and I'm going to own it. And I think a coach sometimes needs to see that confidence from their player to know that this is the right player for me to pick for my team.
Coffey has so much to learn too. This is her sophomore season as a professional. She's still really young, and this being a World Cup year, I'm sure she's going to learn a lot from NWSL and everything that's transpired. But that is, I don't know about you, I assume it is, Scotty, but that is my game. Portland against Angel City is my match to watch this weekend, Saturday night. There's a lot of MLS, NWSL coming up. So thank you so much for tuning in to Straight from the Pitch. Make sure to follow us on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple. Leave comments. It helps get our show out there. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter at SFTPpod, and TikTok. I started us a TikTok this week as well, if that's where you consume your content. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Have a great week.